I warmly welcome all of you to the Speaking English online lecture series, which has been designed by the International Association for Quality Education, along with South Asian International Association for Early Childhood and Development, in order to provide support to everyone who is keen in developing their communication skills. I'm Dishan Jagannathan, the operational leader of International Association for Quality Education, and I'll be briefing you on this lesson, which is lesson 9, which is on present tense, the usage of there is and there are. This series has been designed under the guidance of Mr. Janaka Kamalgoda, the president of International Association for Quality Education and South Asian International Association for Early Childhood Care and Development. The sustainable development goal of this organization is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The purpose of organizing this lecture series is to improve communication skills in English and to overcome challenges in the global society. So today's lesson, we are going to discuss about there is and there are in present tense. So as we all know, is used to represent singular and are is used when we talk about plurals, which is followed in when you make a sentence. This will be followed by a noun. You could also add an adjective to describe the noun. So the sentence structures can be categorized under 4 sections, namely positive sentence, negative sentence, positive questions, and negative questions. So first of all, let's look at the positive sentence. Sorry. When you say a positive sentence, the structure of a positive sentence would be there is or there are plus the noun and adjective followed by place and time. Let's look at some examples which are given in this slide. There is a house, there is a cat, and there are students. So as I told you all earlier, is used for singular and are is used for plural. So when you say there is a house, it describes about a particular house which is placed in an area. And there is a cat. It talks about a particular cat. And when you use there, it is related to pointing, or maybe you're specifically mentioning about a particular thing, not about all the cats. There are students. Maybe you could make the sentence as there are students in the class. So here the noun is plural, and therefore we use are with the noun. Now let's look at some positive sentences for non-living things. Actually, this form could be used for non-living things as well as for living things. So when you say non-living things, anything which doesn't have an existing life. For example, it could be a table, a house, a place. So these refer to non-living things. So as we had seen, the structure goes as there plus is or are plus noun adjective followed by place and time. So if we look at the first example on this slide, there is an accident on the road. So since accident is a singular event, we make use of is. There is an accident on the road. An accident is the noun here, and the place is the road. Second example, there are so many errors in your letter. Now, if you look at this example, errors, the noun is a plural. So due to this, we make use of are. So it goes as there are so many errors in your letter. There is a beautiful film screening at the cinemas nowadays. So since you're talking about a particular specific film, so it's singular and the sentence goes as there is. Likewise, there are many beautiful beaches in Sri Lanka. The noun is beaches, and there are many beaches, so more than one, which is plural. Hence, we use are. There is a big parking area in front of the school. There are more vehicles on the road these days. There are 4 entrances around the auditorium. So the auditorium is in plural, which is there are 4. Hence, we make use of are. Now, let's look at some examples of the positive structure for living things. In the previous slide, we saw examples of non-living things, and in this particular slide, we are going through the positive structure for living things. So, what are living things? Basically, living things are anything with life, maybe humans, animals, plants, all these come under living things. So the example goes as, I'm sorry, the structure is the same for living things and non-living things. The structure remains the same. So the example goes as, there is a cat in our house. So cat is a living thing and it is singular. Hence, we make use of is. There are many people standing at the bus halt. The noun is people, living things. And when you say many people, you know there are more than one. Therefore, we make use of are. There is a good leader in every successful company to run the business. So leader is singular and good is the adjective. Since it's singular, we make use of is. There are footprints of a cat on the table. Now here, we are talking about the footprints, but the footprints of a cat. So the cat is a living thing, and though the footprints are, it's considered as non-living, since we're talking about the cat, the sentence goes as there are footprints of a cat on the table. Likewise, we have another sentence. There is a dog in her house. There are many delegates to speak at the conference. There are many students for the examination. So many students, similar to this second example, many people, it's more than one. And since it's plural, we make use of are. So let's move on to the negative sentence. The negative structure, the format goes as there isn't or there aren't, plus the noun and the adjective. So is not and are not. If you had followed the previous lectures, I always say it's always advisable to make use of the contracted form rather than saying there is not and there are not. So the sentences, the examples given here are, there isn't a house under the hill. There isn't a cat on the tree. There aren't many students in the class. So if you may go through these examples here, it talks about the opposite of positive sentence. They do not exist. They are not in that particular place. The house is not under the hill. It is not there. The cat is not on the tree, isn't on the tree. The cat is not. So negative sentences, we make use of not. It is always combined with is and are. So it goes as isn't and aren't. So the examples of the negative sentence, the structure for non-living things, they are plus isn't or aren't, plus noun and adjective followed by place and time. There isn't an accident on the road. So since accident is singular, we make use of isn't. There aren't many errors in your letter. Errors is plural. Hence, we make use of aren't. There isn't a film screening at the cinemas nowadays. There aren't many beautiful beaches in Colombo. There isn't a big parking area in front of the school. There aren't many vehicles on the road at night. There aren't 4 entrances around the auditorium. So these are examples of negative sentences for non-living things. Now let's move on to living things. So the structure for negative remains the same, no matter positive, no matter living things or non-living things. When it's negative, it's always there, plus isn't or aren't, plus noun and adjective, followed by place and time. So the example here goes as, there isn't a cat in our house. So, which means there is no cat in the house. There aren't many people standing at the bus halt. People, like we have seen in the previous examples, it's more than one, which is plural. Therefore, we make use of aren't. There isn't a good leader to take the company forward. There aren't animals in the zoo. Animals are plural. Therefore, it goes as there aren't. There isn't a dog in her house. Dog is singular. Therefore, we make use of isn't. There aren't many delegates to speak at the conference. Delegates is plural, hence we make use of aren't. And the last one is there isn't a bird in the garden. So now we are going to go into positive questions. When we make positive questions in present tense, the words is and are always come before there. So the question begins with is or are. If it is going to be a singular noun, you will be making use of is. And if the noun is going to be a plural, we are going to make use of are questions. So the format would be is or are plus there plus noun adjective followed by place and time. Let's look at some examples. Is there a garage in this area? Are there many girls in your class? Is there any water in the jug? Now, when you look at the first example, it talks about a garage. So a particular specific garage, which is singular. Hence, we make use of is. So the question begins with is there? And likewise, second one, many girls, talking about more than one girl. Obviously, it's plural. Therefore, the question goes as are there? And the last one, is there any water? Now, when it comes to water, this is called as an uncountable noun because we can't count these. For example, water, oil, hair, sand. These are called as uncountable nouns. So when we make use of uncountable noun here, since there is, so we make the question as, is there any water in the jug? You don't say, are there any water? Now let's look at the positive questions for non-living things. So the structure is or are plus there plus noun and adjective followed by place and time. The first one is there an accident on the road? Accident is a noun which we have been going through in our previous slides in the positive and negative sentences. So you begin the question with is there? Likewise, are there many errors in your letter? Errors is plural. Therefore, we make use of are in the beginning of the question. The third one is there a film screening at the cinemas nowadays? Are there many beautiful beaches in Colombo? Is there a big parking area in front of the school? Are there many vehicles on the road at night? Are there 4 entrances around the auditorium? So again, these nouns are non-living. Examples, accident, errors, film, beaches, parking area, vehicles, entrance. So since these are non-living things, the examples have been given here. Moving on to living things, positive questions. The format remains the same. It's going to be is or are plus there followed plus the noun or adjective noun along with the adjective. You could also add the place and time to expand the question to make a meaningful question. So moving on to the examples, is there a cat in our house? So cat is a living thing and it's singular. Hence we make use of is there. The question begins with is. Are there many people standing at the bus halt? Is there a good leader to lead the company forward? Are there many animals in the zoo? Is there a dog in her house? Are there many delegates to speak at the conference? Is there a bird in the garden? Lastly, now we'll look into negative questions. The difference between positive and negative questions structure is you add a not in the negative question, which always is followed by is and are, which is isn't, aren't. So the questions will begin with isn't there, or you could make use of aren't there for plural, plus noun with adjective followed by place and time. Isn't there a garage in this area? Aren't there many girls in your class? Isn't there any water in the jug? So garage, as we had seen in our previous slides, it's singular and a non-living thing. Hence, we make use of isn't. And many girls, which talks about more than one quantity, hence plural. And we make use of are, aren't there. And likewise, water, which is an uncountable noun. So I had discussed this in the positive questions also. So the question goes as, isn't there any water in the jug? Moving on to the structure of negative questions for non-living things. Isn't or aren't plus there plus noun adjective followed by place and time. Isn't there an accident on the road? So here you're adding the word not, the contracted form for is not, it is, isn't, and are not is aren't. Aren't there many errors in your letter? Isn't there a film screening at the cinemas nowadays? Aren't there many beautiful beaches in Sri Lanka? Isn't there a big parking area in front of the school? Aren't there many vehicles on the road at night? And the last one, aren't there 4 entrances around the auditorium? And moving on to the living things, negative questions, the format remains the same. It goes as isn't or aren't, plus there, plus noun and adjective, followed by place and time. So the question will go as, isn't there a cat in our house? Aren't there many people standing at the bus halt? Isn't there a good leader to take the company forward? Aren't there many animals in the zoo? Isn't there a dog in her house? Aren't there many delegates to speak at the conference? Isn't there a bird in the garden? So the nouns here, cat, people, leader, animals, dog, delegates, and birds, all of these nouns are living things. So this slide summarizes what we've learned or we've discussed in this lesson. That is present tense, talking about countable nouns and countable nouns with is or are. So positive sentences, the structure is there is or are plus the noun. There is a garage in this area. There are prefix in our class. There is some water in the jug. Negative sentences, the structure goes as there isn't or aren't plus the noun. There isn't a garage in this area. There aren't any prefix in our class. There isn't any water in the jug. And moving on to positive questions, the structure goes as The questions begin with is or are, plus they are, less than are. Is there a garage in this area? Are there prefects in your class? Is there any water in the jar? And negative questions, the format goes as isn't or aren't, less there, less than are. Isn't there a garage in this area? Aren't there prefects in your class? And isn't there any water in the jar? Actually, there's a small correction in this. It should be aren't there prefix in your class? Because if it's going to be prefix singular, the question would be, isn't there a prefect in your class? So once you have gone through this lecture, please log on to this website which has been given, iafqe.org, or you could also browse saiafoeccd.org, and you could go through this lecture series and also kindly kindly do the assessment process. There are some assessment forms to be filled. So please fill those forms and do the self-assessment where you will have to come up with 25 positive, negative questions. So which will give you, I will give you more practice. So watch the next lesson to become fluent in English. So till we meet, or till I meet you in the next lesson. So we'll be finishing this lesson right here. Thank you. I thank all of you for joining. Thank you and have a great day.
So high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.